You know, for the biggest part of my life, I didn't really understand autumn. I mean, I loved spring, everything was coming back to life. Summer, I mean, who doesn't love summer? And I was okay with winter, you know, now and then, but autumn was this like strange season in between that didn't really have a purpose for me. But I think I get it now. I think I have an idea of how the seasons work. It's basically like a day in a human's life. Spring is like the morning. You wake up, you're groggy, you reach for that coffee, you need to head on to work. You know, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done, busy. And then summer is the bulk of your day, when you do all the work, when you get everything done. But autumn is like when my dad used to come home from work, you know, with big bags full of goodies and some nicely fresh baked hot steaming bread and some beautifully delicious cured meat from his friend from the countryside, and some sweets and some. It was amazing. It was harvest time, and of course winter is when everybody went to sleep, blah blah. But autumn is exactly that. It's the time when nature brings the goodies home. Everything ripens, fruits, vegetables, you name it, nuts, seeds, everything. It's an abundance, it's an avalanche of deliciousness that comes our way in this season, and it would be a shame not to do something with all of this abundance. And this is the whole point of today's video, because we're going to make a dish that can be best done now in autumn, but it can be enjoyed in every season of your life. Now, before you invest time and money into a large batch, like I've put in the description of this video, that will probably feed your family throughout winter, I suggest making a smaller batch, just enough so that you and your family can try it and decide if you want to commit, if you like it, if it's something that you would enjoy, regardless of the months of the year, but just see if your palate is friendly to this dish. If you do decide to make the whole batch, just know that it's very hard to do it alone. So make sure that you have a friend, a family member, somebody to help you with this whole process, because there's going to be instances, there's going to be moments in this whole one full day endeavor where you will need somebody else to do another task because you are stuck, I don't know, mixing the pot every 5 minutes or something like that. So make sure that you have at least one more person with you when you decide to do a very large batch. In the description of the video, I'll write the ingredients, the quantities, and the recipe per se. Whereas here in the video, this is going to be the how-to and the steps, because there's going to be a couple of steps. So let's begin. The main ingredient of this dish is the red pepper. And we're going to start by roasting the red peppers. And this can be done in a multitude of ways. You can roast them in an oven, you can roast them over an open fire grill, you can roast them in a cast iron pan, up to you and your possibilities. The goal of this process is to roast the pepper so that the flesh becomes soft, the skin charred, and a lot of flavor and smokiness is developed and imparted into the peppers. It wouldn't be a roasted red pepper recipe otherwise, right? Personally, I'm roasting the peppers over a wood-burning fire because I want this step to be fast but efficient. The flames will char the skin and soften the peppers really fast, while at the same time smoking the fuck out of them in the process. No matter what method you're using, make sure to keep an eye on them and turn them on all sides. This won't be a let's watch a TV show while we do this type of task. You know they're done when the outside is properly charred, the flesh is nice and soft but still has structural integrity, and the smell coming off of them is better than hypnotic poison. Make sure to have a large pot and a pair of grilling tongs nearby, because once the peppers are done, we're going to put the peppers into the pot and cover it with a lid. Let it sit now for 30 minutes, time in which the residual heat will steam them further, making it easier later to clean and peel, while at the same time developing new and amazing flavors. While the peppers steam themselves, we're going to make some well-needed prep. We'll start with the onion, which we will peel. And if you watch closely what I'm doing, hopefully you'll learn a method of doing this in an easy and fast way that keeps as much onion for yourself and as little for the compost pile. I only mention this because I've seen people peeling onions. People of all ages, and the amount of waste is shocking. Now, I'm not here to judge, but it can be done better. But anyway, peel them, wash them, and get to chopping. They need to be diced small, or as small as you can. Hand dicing is not mandatory here, but I just enjoy doing it. Though, a food processor is a godsend, and when I have huge batches, I'm not afraid to use it. Next, we'll prep the carrots and the celery root. Prep being a fancy word for peeling them and grating them. Side note, depending on what size batch you decide to make, know that there's going to be a lot of byproduct like peels and ends. If possible, don't throw them in the garbage bin, but compost the waste or feed it to some livestock. Anything that is more sustainable is going to work fine here. As I mentioned before, I'm not afraid to use a food processor, so all the carrots and the celery root gets put through it to make this process more time efficient and more easy on my biceps. Now I need to mention something. The celery root is not a traditional ingredient used in this dish, but Grandma always said that this is her secret ingredient, and it was what made hers stand out and be so delicious. So I never fought with my grandma about these things, and I accepted it and always added this to the recipe to make sure that I always get that nostalgic feel when I open a new jar and I enjoy it regardless of what season I'm going to eat it in. Now that the largest prep part is done, we can turn our attention back to the peppers and start peeling and cleaning them. Now I don't know how to explain this step better than take the pepper by the tail and peel the skin and the seeds off. Pro tip, do the peeling of the peppers in the pot that they steamed in, because we want to keep all of those juices that are going to come off the pepper. Later we're going to strain them and use them in the dish itself. Basically it's like the essence of the pepper, where all the flavor and all the deliciousness is going to be kept. So if we throw the juices with the peels and the seeds, that's going to be a huge waste. So please make sure that you keep every single drop of that juice. If you don't have the patience to do it this way, just open the peppers up in the pot to drain the juices and then peel them under a cold stream of running water, like a water tap. This method will make the peeling of the peppers really fast and very satisfying. This dish is very dear to my heart because it's packed with nostalgia. Every time I enjoy it, I get flooded with some of the best memories that I have as a kid. So I don't take any risk in getting ready and being prepared for this moment every single year. What do I mean? Food prices fluctuate, especially with red peppers. Sometimes they're dirt cheap. Most times they cost an arm, a leg, and a kidney. So whenever there's a sale or a huge discount, I buy big. I roast them, I peel them, and I freeze the heck out of them and the juices they produce to ensure that I don't go bankrupt in October. There's a point there about electricity and running the freezer, but the freezer is going to run anyway for other products. And trust me, it's worth prepping in advance, especially because in my climate, peppers don't grow well. Trust me, I try every year, but there's just not enough time and temperature, like heat, to ripen them. And green peppers, they don't have the flavor, they just won't cut it for this dish. I'm sure a lot of you do the same. I just wanted to share with you the reality that I'm not buying everything now in October and doing this. I am preparing for this throughout the whole summer, and if there's a sale in October, I'm gonna buy more and make a larger batch. Otherwise, I'll just stick to what I have. That being said, next we'll chop the peppers, either by hand or with a food processor. Just keep it in mind that if you do it with the food processor, don't overdo it. We want small pieces of pepper. We don't want it to be a pepper paste. Once you're done with this step, remember to strain the juices from the pot where they steamed in. And if you followed my method and bought cheap and froze it, make sure to add any frozen juices that you put away when you prepare those batches. Please understand that the juices, they're the flavor factory of this whole recipe. Good. Now that we have all the ingredients nice and prepped, we can start with the next main stage, cooking. Start your stove, whatever type it may be. In a very large pot, add the oil and let it heat up. When the oil is at temperature, you can test it with a small piece of onion. Add the onion and the spices. I add the spices now because they will have a bit of a time to fry before the onions release all the moisture trapped inside of them, hence perfuming the entire batch with the aromas and the flavors. And now we leave them all to cook until the onions are nice and soft. And a pro tip here is to leave them uncovered. We want a lot of that moisture that's released by the onions to evaporate. As soon as the onion is done, we're gonna add the carrot and the celery and cover the pot with the lid. This time we need the lid because they're root vegetables and they take a bit more heat and temperature to soften up compared to the onions. In about 10 minutes, when the carrots and the celery has softened up as well, it's time to add the tomato paste and the tomato sauce. These two will add sweetness and color to the dish, making it bright, red and eye-catchy. Trust me, these jars are going to be the sexiest jars in your pantry. Now cook for 10 more minutes at medium heat. The next ingredient that needs to be added to the pot is the chopped pepper, the star of the show. And because I'm doing a large batch, I had to split the mix into 2, then even 3 pots to fit it all in such a way that will allow me to mix it often without spilling and making a huge mess. And speaking about mixing often, now we're entering the last stretch of the recipes. And as soon as we add the peppers to the mix, we need to leave the pots on medium to low heat and mix as often as possible. I would say every 5 minutes, because we want to avoid the mixture, the bulk of the ingredients itself, to stick to the bottom of the pot. We want to avoid sticking at all costs because it will make the batch bitter and give it a very nasty taste. So please arm yourself with patience, get yourself a podcast running or something and start mixing until your arms are bigger than Arnold's in 1973. Please, mix. Keep on mixing. The goal here is to allow the batch to evaporate and reduce enough so that all the ingredients are fully incorporated, but it doesn't become a big, messy, mushy pile. All the ingredients must be visible, but cooked. So while you stir the pots, your partner in crime can start cleaning and sterilizing the jars. We're gonna need a lot of jars to can all of this product. This is why I mentioned it's a 2 people kind of a job, and it's very hard to do it alone. If you don't know much about what sterilizing jars entails, then just do a quick Google and you're going to find a treasure trove of information, of videos and all kind of experts speaking about this and teaching you how to do it in the best and safest way. I won't cover this in this video, but the information is out there, so get to typing. And make sure you don't skip this step. Sterilizing the jars is very important, or you risk wasting this whole batch. Even with canning, if anything is left inside of the jars, it may spoil the food or even kill you. Yes, I use the K word because this is serious stuff. After 40 minutes of mixing at medium to low fire, we're almost done. There's just a couple of few ingredients that we need to add right now, among which the second secret ingredient, which is garlic. A whole head of garlic for this size of a batch. So peel the garlic, crush it, press it, and add it to the mix right now. Together with the garlic, we'll add the last 2 ingredients, them being ground pepper, sweet smoked paprika, and salt. Done? Now mix everything very well, as deep and as well as you can, and cook it for 5 more minutes at low heat so that the newcomers have some action as well in the pot before we're done. A good visual cue to know when the dish is fully cooked and done is when the oil rises above all the other ingredients. When you see that, after all the steps that you followed until now, the dish is done. So we can take it off the heat and we're gonna leave it for 10 to 15 minutes to cool down, to relax, to stabilize, so it doesn't simmer, so it doesn't boil anymore, because after that we're gonna jump straight away into filling the jars with the product. This is a good point to try it. See if it needs more salt, see if it needs more pepper, make it perfect for your palate. And the reason why we're adding especially salt now at the end when it's all done is another of Grandma's secrets. Whenever she made food for winter or like any type of large batch food, she always added the salt at the end, because if you add it at the beginning, 1, you don't know the end product and how much is going to evaporate, but 2, is going to contribute negatively to the cooking of the vegetables. So in the sense that if you add the salt at the beginning, it's going to mush all the vegetables up. This is very easy to see when you cook potatoes, especially. If you add the salt at the beginning, they're going to, break apart. If you add it at the end when it's all done, they keep their structural integrity. So add that to your cookbook as well. Now here's proof of my biceps workout. Nothing stuck to the pot, but my arms are spent. If you decided to make a small batch to try it and see if it's something that you want to invest time and money in, it's ready to be enjoyed right now. But as a pro tip, I would suggest leaving it in the fridge for at least one full day to rest, to relax, to mix all the ingredients and the flavors together. And then tomorrow you can enjoy it on a nice piece of toast and get the full flavor and aroma and savoriness of this dish. It's good now, but it's going to be amazing tomorrow. That being said, if you've done a large batch and you're getting ready for winter, you're not done yet. So take the product, put it in your jars, and make sure that the lid is properly tight on them. And remember about headspace. Anytime you can anything, make sure to leave about 4 centimeters of empty space between the product and the top of the lid, because when we're going to can this product, the canning process is going to make the pressure inside of it is going to make the product rise a bit. So if you overfill it, you risk your jars exploding, you risk your product spilling all over, making a mess, and just you don't want to lose all this hard work that you've done, that you've invested up until this point. So leave headspace, please. At the same time, I'm not going to give you a canning or a pressure canning tutorial. You need to learn that on your own. It depends on the altitude that you live in, on the climate, on the humidity. There's many factors that go into a successful canning operation. So please just teach yourself. There's a wealth of knowledge on the internet for free. There's free books, free videos, free articles from the government, from professional people. So just, it's not hard. It's just a lot to process and understand. And as soon as you have that, as soon as you're comfortable with that, it's a skill that you can have for the rest of your life. You know, I did the work, I learned it, and every year I pressure can all my preserves, be it fruit or vegetables, and they never go bad. I still have this dish, this specific dish that we're doing today from last year. I opened a jar recently, is as new. So it's definitely a skill that I think everybody should know. Anybody who's interested in being more self-sufficient, self-reliant, and somebody who wants to have food safety in the world that we live in today. While your jars are being canned, make sure to grab a couple of warm blankets. This is another of Grandma's secrets to ensure a successful canning process. She always said make sure that you have a warm blanket on the bottom and then a couple of other blankets to cover the finished jars with, because this way they will cool off very slowly, ensuring that the pop, you know, the popping noises that you hear when you're canning, that's them being hermetically sealed properly and lasting for at least 1 year. If you leave them outside at room temperature, or like I am doing it here in the outdoor kitchen, the temperature may influence the cooling, forcing it to cool off too quickly and not giving you or not ensuring you a proper tight seal. So it doesn't cost you anything. Just get a couple of blankets, a couple of big jackets, whatever you have handy. It doesn't have to be a blanket per se, and cover them after you take them out of the pressure canner. If you go with this method, understand that it's going to take about 1 full day for them to cool off properly. And another thing that I should have mentioned is when you finish taking them out of the canner, make sure you put them in one single layer. Do not put other jars on top of jars, because you risk messing up the seal. So no pressure on top of the lid, everything on a large table, as many jars as you do, and let them cool off properly. Only after they are fully cold, that's when we can handle them and put them wherever we store our food for winter. Next day, I was welcomed by a happy to go home group of jars. And being a softie for them, I couldn't say no. I packed them all in a large bag, used my newly acquired Arnold biceps, and carried them home for their final resting place, my beautiful pantry. Congratulations, you just made what's probably the most amazing vegetable spread, roasted red pepper dip dish in your entire life. And I'm very proud of you 3 out there who actually did it. And I'm not trying to be mean, but I understand that this is not a quick lunch recipe or a Sunday dinner, you know? This is a whole day, 2 people, hands-on, adventure, but you know what? It's worth it. Small batch, large batch, it doesn't matter. The end product is divine, and if you don't believe me, just do it. It's an amazing preserve, but more than that, it's a great talking piece that can be used in a picnic or to impress that new special one in your life. With a piece of nice bread and some good company, this dish will take you to heaven and back with spare time to enjoy the sunset. Take a chance and make this recipe. You won't regret it. With that being said, thank you very much for your patience, for your time, and for your interest and curiosity in this type of content. If you did enjoy the video, please like and share it with others. And there's nothing else that I want to say apart from have an amazing autumn, and I will see you next time.